KTN News. Get the whole story.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Prime. In case you're just joining us, good morning and happy festivities. Barely 2 days to go to the Christmas holidays. We're here still to inform you, despite it being a holiday period. Information is power, you know what they say. So we're just highlighting some of the top stories covered in today's dailies. Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard, The Daily Nation. We've had a chit-chat on some of the political stories covered in the papers, what we saw during the special sitting that was convened for 2 days in Parliament, and of course that particular political party's amendment bill. Some of those proposals have not yet seen the light of day. More debate later on in 2022 expected, but equally just yesterday the Ministry of Health sort of put its foot down. Tough measures in terms of fighting COVID-19 in the country. They, in one or the other, invoked the Public Health Act and in order to enforce vaccination in the country. This coming in the backdrop of a high positivity rate, 29.7% in the last 24 hours. That's what we're dealing with, even as we encourage you back at home to get vaccinated. But of course, a lot of conversation centered on whether it is right to actually block Kenyans from accessing public services, even as there's a case in court, as we believe. Luckily, we have a lawyer in studio. Allow me to reintroduce my panelists. Virtually, we're joined by John Mwaniki, the Deputy Governor of Laikipia County. In studio, Professor Emmanuel Mutisia, economist, and Ndengwa Njiru, who is a lawyer. Let me start with you, Wakili, and just briefly, of course, there's a court case, and I think that's where we'll start it at. Yes. The government has a history of sort of disregarding court orders, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Is this such kind?
I don't know whether you will permit me to just finish up what was saying on the Azimio.
Okay.
Then we can proceed to that particular issue.
Briefly.
Because I was just about to submit and say that any presidential candidate who does not indicate or mutilate or move towards implementing Article 131 is a suspicious person. Any person who embarrasses, ridicules, and mocks a person who is talking about unity is a suspicious presidential candidate who must be treated with a pinch of salt.
Okay.
Now, coming to the question of the court cases, you know, the court orders must have a particular intention of addressing a particular mischief. So when the court issues an order and says that we should not implement the Public Health Act, and we are in a situation of a pandemic, and then you are saying that because you are simply saying that one petitioner has gone to court and said, my rights have been violated. How about the rights of the other Kenyans? You know, we keep on saying that the courts must be able to balance the rights, because there is no right of an individual that is more weighty than the rights of the other person. That is why we all refer to them as human rights. They're inherent. They were all given to us by God.
Okay.
So even as court issues such kind of orders, they must be able to determine the consequences of that particular action. That's why I'm saying that some of our courts are completely detached with the realities on the ground, with the realities of what the law ought to be addressing. The reason why that particular act was enacted was to address the mischief of a situation that we are in now today. So when the court comes and issues an order and restrains the act from addressing that particular mischief of making sure that people do not die, who is supposed to benefit with that proceeds of that order if it's not the people? So to me, I don't think, as much as I believe in respecting and observing court rights, court orders.
Okay.
What will government do? Government will observe the order issued as again pursuant to one person, one petitioner, or the government will move in to protect the life of individuals. So I think some of these orders, the court must stop being activist. Lazima koti zetu zijue kwamba hao sio wanyapara wa kunyapara wa zile idara zingine za serikali. Manake koti zetu zimekuwa nyapara. There are some of our courts that have become nyaparas.
But it's not mandatory to get a vaccination.
Yes, it's not. But you see, if you look at the origin of the Public Health Act, it is actually an innovation by Mzungu. It is one of those acts which were applicable in England. We used to call them the Statutes of General Application.
Okay.
Why the British Parliament enacted the Public Health Act, which was by virtue of legislation in England, applicable in Kenya by virtue of Kenya being a colony, through the Statutes of General Application, was because there were some pandemics in England or in Britain that were universal. For example, influenza, or something like plague.
All right.
You know the rat plague.
Yes, yes.
This act was enacted because of the rat plague. Mzungu was like, how do we deal with the rat plague? So they enacted. That was the genesis upon which this act was enacted.
Thanks.
To protect the right to life.
Okay.
And the right to life is sacrosanct and so sacred that it must be protected. And we must be able to observe it and make sure that you have chosen not to be vaccinated. But your failure to be vaccinated will affect my right to life. What do we do?
All right, and
the government must come up with a compelling position.
Definitely, and that's the argument by the government. They sort of have to protect those who have been vaccinated and those who are working in this public offices in one way or the other. Ndegwa has definitely made his point. Moniki, add your voice to this. Which side of the fence do you sit on in terms of the government putting its foot down? Because clearly counties will definitely bear the brunt in case this particular variant gets out of hand. But equally, is it enforceable from where you sit in terms of saying you won't be able to board a matatu, no parties, no park visits if you're not vaccinated? How exactly is it enforceable?
I'm going to make 3 points, Jesse, on this, but let me first of all remind Kenyans, if you try to commit suicide, the government will actually take you to court and jail you for trying to take your life. That should just be a wake-up call to all of us that we must understand that the government is responsible for ensuring that it protects the lives of others. Now, 3 things. Number 1, those Kenyans who have refused to take the vaccine, they are actually behaving in a manner suggesting that they don't care about other Kenyans. In this context, you want to go out and mingle with other Kenyans who themselves have taken time to protect themselves, but you have declined a government response to handling the pandemic. So you actually are a threat to the lives of the other Kenyans. That's one perspective, and I think that's what Wakil Ndegwa has very clearly explained. Secondly, remember, the Kenyan economy is not able to sustain a lockdown another time. What we are looking now at almost 80% positivity rate is that we should have locked down this country yesterday. Now, trying to do so will have such huge ramifications to our economy, and we may not be able to recover second time. See, we've struggled, how businesses have, shut down, lives have been devastated, suicides have gone up because of frustration and depression. So we are trying to look at this thing in bigger context and saying that it is not possible. And only we're being asked to do as Kenyans is follow the given solutions, which is take a vaccine. And as many as we are, so that we can achieve the herd immunity, we'll be able to overcome this pandemic. I think that the other point I want to raise is that the issue of pandemics and why the Public Health Act supersedes other rights in this manner. Remember, there is biological warfare. And pandemics can also be used as a security threat to the integrity of a country, the sovereignty of a country. So I think people must also remember that one way of wiping out a nation is actually ensuring that the pandemic goes uncontrolled. And I liken those Kenyans a bit, telling the cheek that what is the difference between you and when we complain about Al-Shabaab? Because then you are an internal one, because you're refusing to abide by government. Finally, on the issue of enforcement, from a county perspective, yes, it is possible to enforce, and it will be enforced in this manner. Who licenses business? It's the county government who give a single business permits, so they will revoke those permits. And I don't think there's any businessman who is willing to have his license revoked because of a third party. The patrons who patronize a certain business, there are many. So you can choose to still do business with those who have been vaccinated. In any case, if you look at the hospitality industry that we had over the last 18 months, they have really suffered, and they would not want to go into that direction again where they have been forced to lock down, yet there are those patrons who have already taken the vaccine, therefore they can be admitted. There are those who can be kept away. Finally, in terms of boarding matatus or being able to, patronize places of, social places and others, including even places of worship, every activity that happens with the county has an element of, approval, authority, enforcement, supervision. So there are mechanisms and agencies that can be able to enforce this. But the question we would ask morally is, why should we, our Kenyans, subject ourselves to cat and mouse game in a life-threatening situation? We should be a bit sober and accept that we all need to live together, we all need each other, and therefore we should be able to do the right thing.
Okay, well noted, DG. Prof, over to you. And I think it's proper to make it clear that perhaps Kenyans haven't refused to get vaccinated. They want more sensitization. Where exactly at this point have they been brought closer to the people? Are there any side effects? Those are pertinent questions that usually come up, because one would argue the net effect of the government taking a hard stance would be other unscrupulous ways of getting this certificate. And we saw a couple of reports on the dailies that you can pay as little as 1,000 to get a COVID-19 certificate. We don't want that, right?
Well, I'm just going first to respond to what you've said. I think by saying that Kenyans have not refused to get vaccinated, I would say no, most of them have refused. They know they should have taken it, but they have just decided not. It's not necessary at this moment. And Kenyans are Kenyans. Until you push them, they will always wait and see what happens. And because people are not dying anymore, and this COVID thing is just another flu to most of us, most of the Kenyans, I think, have decided not to take it up because they don't see any threat to their health and, of course, to the health of their people. The availability of the vaccines in county hospitals, even the smallest hospitals, is something that the government has done very well, and I think Kenyans should have taken advantage of that to ensure that at least they protect themselves and they protect the lives of their families and their friends, and of course their neighbors and everyone. So the Public Health Act, I do sort of concur with my panelist here, Wakili, and of course the DG, that it must be enforced. I think the government having the interest of the Mwananchi at heart means that we must get protected from, of course, losing lives, and even closing the economy. Because now Kenya is just recovering. We are on the course of the COVID-19 economic recovery. If we are not careful, we are going to go back to where we were last year. And Kenyans, the country is not able actually to get back to a lockdown. And Kenyans will not even be willing and ready to lock themselves down without any economic activities taking place. And I do sort of beseech the judiciary that at times, playing with the system and showing that you know what you're doing, and of course defending what is not defendable, is not what we should be doing as a country. If you go to places like China, Japan, and the Asian tigers, you realize that people know what they should do to ensure that, one, they protect themselves, and two, they support the growth of the economy, because that is what we all depend on. And if we can just take that and be disciplined and ensure that we follow what is required as a country, then we'll be able to get to that level. But one thing that we have as Kenyans is that we're very indisciplined. We like being pushed, and if we are not pushed, and if acts like this one, the Public Health Act, are not put in place, Kenyans will just relax. And what is going to happen now is that, with the positivity rate of almost 30%, we'll not be able to travel out of the country. Even the certificates that we have at this moment. I have one. I got mine in March. And it's not even acceptable because you're not trusted out there. I can't travel to Japan now because they say that mine was produced in River Road. Why? Because we are a country that does things in the wrong way all the time. Sometimes I tell Kenyans that we need to use these skills and knowledge and wisdom that we have in doing the right thing so that we can grow this economy and so that we also can compete with advanced economies on this planet.
Okay, that's well noted, Prof. Definitely a key area of concern. As we give our final comments, Wakili, and as you add your voice perhaps to the health issues, perhaps speak to the parents' plight right now. They're talking to the Ministry of Education, perhaps asking for a fee extension in terms of the deadline when it comes to paying fees. Is that a reasonable plight?
It's very reasonable. You know, as a parent who is also paying school fees, we would make such kind of a plea. And for example, probably even not just a relaxation on the fee paying procedures, but also an extension of the holidays. Yeah. So these guys can have some little time to have some relaxation. You know, we cannot compete with the time. If we lost one year last year, we lost it. Yeah. We cannot suppress and put our children under unsurmountable pressure just to make sure that we recover the lost year. That is water under the bridge. And then we can also say that we're going to have we will put our children under a process that's going to have some emotional breakdown and psychological breakdown so that we can catch up with the time. There's still plenty for them even tomorrow. So maybe the minister should also consider extending their holidays slightly, maybe even with 1 week or 2 weeks, so they can get some time to relax. And as I sum up, because I may not have enough time to invite the chair, as I said, I want to thank the panelists, most importantly, the member, the Mheshimiwa from Laikipia, the Deputy Governor, and say that Kenyans must be on the outlook. Kenyans must look for the good leaders. Kenyans must look for the person who is going to enhance unity in this country. Why so? Because if we do not enhance unity, we are going to have a fragile country like that of Ethiopia. We do not want, you know, it's in a disunited country that people will be allocated jobs on the basis of their last name. For example, if you speak of Wekesa without any prejudice, you think Wekesa should be a watchman. If you speak of Andegwa, you think Andegwa should be a hawker, Andegwa should be Nigekomba, Andegwa should be a thief. If you speak of Kipchoge, Kipchoge should be a spinter. If you speak of Omondi, Omondi should be somewhere being roasted by the scorching sun because he should be doing some panel beating somewhere. A disunited country will be, people will be allocated jobs on the basis of your last name, and that will also bring issues of nepotism. Issues of nepotism will bring the ideology of our time to eat, and therefore all communities will be competing for the presidency so that they can get their own opportunity to eat. And then when you compete for these opportunities, then you are creating a fertile ground for corruption. That is why there are some individuals who cannot speak about corruption in this country, and they have never condemned corruption in any campaign that they undertake, because for them they believe that they need to have their time to eat this country so that then they can, and that's why they are not supporting the idea for unity. So my fellow Kenyans, let's support unity for this country. Let us exclude anything else and support unity.
Okay, well noted. Mwaniki, your final comment briefly, sir.
For me, as we head toward Christmas, I want to request my fellow politicians to take a break from this high-octane politics. We focus on the less fortunate in the society, those who don't have anything to celebrate this festive season with. Try and reach out to the needy and offer a bit of assistance. Then we can resume politics after the new year, God willing. I think also on the issue of schools, there's a serious problem. Definitely when you speak to the young ones who are in school, particularly the candidates, they are quite tense. They need some bit of guidance and help. The CS education can do better than what he's already doing. You know, trying to say it must be done. There's no dialogue. There's no nothing. I think let's be accommodative as a society, because we are living under very difficult conditions. We are living in a very abnormal situation because of the pandemic. And the only thing I would request is that all of us, let's be accommodative. Let's extend a bit of heart of goodwill. I mean, God-given free life. Let's protect each other and take care of each other as big brothers as much as we can. And I'm sure I look forward to a very rigorous and a very tough year in terms of campaigns. But all in all, let's pray that our country remains together and remains united.
Okay, the message of unity is predominantly being given. Asante sana, gentlemen, for your time. I think I'll leave it right there. Prof. Emmanuel Mutisia, it's always a pleasure to have you with us. Economist, and definitely has a keen eye in matters politics, joined by Ndegwa Njiru as well. Wakili, asante sana for your time. And Merry Christmas as well, gentlemen. Virtually, we're joined by John Mwaniki, Deputy Governor. Laikipia County. So that's it in terms of deliberations on the latest news making headlines. Make sure you grab yourself a copy. A lot to do with the special sitting intrigues. And perhaps let's finalize on that particular point, on that story that highlighted what exactly went down on the floor of the House. Now, even as legislators allied to Deputy President William Ruto won round one on the political party's Amendment Bill 2021 by managing to push the debate to next year, the House was reduced to a shouting match, giving Deputy Speaker Moses Cheboi a rough time presiding over the session. Our senior political affairs reporter Chris Thairo looks at the intrigues that characterized the second day of the special sitting of the National Assembly.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of order, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, based on your...
The second day of the special sitting in the National Assembly could only be compared to the 2014 session of the 11th Parliament, when members were debating the controversial security laws, that time a united Jubilee government facing a strong opposition. This time,
log out, honorable members.
The opposition had united with some legislators supporting the government, ready to face off with legislators supporting Deputy President William Ruto.
Honorable Commissioner, proceed.
And from the word go, it was clear that the debate would be heated. Some members giving the chairman of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, Muturi Kigano, a rough time to contribute on the debate.
Mr. Speaker, if you can protect me from these hecklers,
there cannot be any heckling member.
The regulation.
Members can only consult a little higher. So what the most important thing is to summarize.
At some point, Embakasi East MP Babu Owino used unorthodox means to impede the movements of nominated MP David Sankok.
What is surprising is, Honorable Sankok, of course, you are seated there all the time. If you have lost your crutches, you should obviously have the person in mind who has taken your crutches, if at all. Then I will order them to be brought to you quickly. And let me know, Honorable Owino, are you the one who has committed that offense?
I've already released them, Honorable Speaker.
Oh, you have released?
The sergeant has taken them.
So the Honorable, the Honorable nominee 001, you already have your other legs. Yes, because let's put it this way. The legs with the Honorable Sankok would be legs. If it falls to hands of someone else, it becomes some weapon. And actually, Honorable Babu, you actually should apologize to the House, not to Sankok, because what you have just done is absolutely out of the ordinary. So, Honorable Babu, I know you for making many other issues, but this should not be one of them. So just apologize and this
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Sankok seemed not to need the legs as at the moment.
No,
that's
just
why
apologize and then we have...
I apologize.
That is a matter settled now. It's a matter settled.
The debate also created an opportunity for legislators to flex their muscles, taking a political divide between those supporting Raila-led Azimio la Umoja movement and Deputy President William Ruto's UDA Allied Brigade. And as they say, numbers don't lie.
And if you have numbers, Mr. Speaker, don't be worried. Don't shout outside there. We have numbers. Bring your numbers here now. They are required in the House, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, we are going to win this one hands down, Mr. Speaker.
All right.
Not shout this one, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, let me talk. I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, for record, if this bill passes the way it is, and I know we will be looking at it because I have opposed most of it, it will find challenges on the floor or in the court.
So instead of making noise, instead of shouting like Alice Wahome is shouting as if she's in a marketplace, Alice Wahome should tell us where there are 150 members that they have been boasting around that they have 150 members and they have only 25 members.
Okay.
Deputy Speaker Moses Cheboi had a rough time controlling the legislators who had turned the session into a shouting match.
I beg to reply.
Honorable members, honorable members, order, honorable members, listen to me clearly.
And after all was said and done, the debate on the Political Parties Amendment Bill 2021 was shelved to next year to give the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee time to consolidate the numerous amendments proposed by legislators. Chris Dairo, KTN News.
Well, that's the last showdown we'll see in Parliament, at least for this year, as that special sitting was actually concluded with in order for them to take that all-important break. We'll definitely keep you updated.